Assignment 41 has to deal with driving data, and data is important to a driver because we need to know things like how many miles the car has on it or how many miles we're going to be driving it. So there is some reading here that needs to be done as you're going through this. I've highlighted a couple of things: the odometer and the speedometer. The odometer indicates the distance traveled since the car has left the factory. So that's the total miles on the car. A trip odometer is that one that you can reset every time. It will tell you how many miles you've taken on a specific trip if you want to keep track. And of course, the speedometer tells you how fast you're going. I know you guys probably know all this stuff, so let's talk about some different examples that you're going to see in this unit. If a car travels at an average rate of speed of 50 miles per hour for 6 hours, how far does this car travel? Well, you remember the distance formula. Distance traveled is equal to the rate that you're traveling times the amount of time that you're traveling. Okay, so if a car travels at an average rate of speed of 50, that'd be the rate, for 6 hours, that's the time. To find out the distance, you simply multiply the rate times the time, 50 times 6, to give you 300. So they traveled 300 miles. I know that one was pretty easy. Let's look at another one. Jack lives in New York and will be attending college in Atlanta, Georgia. The driving distance between the two cities is 883 miles, so that's going to be our distance. Jack knows the speed limit varies on the roads. He will travel from 50 miles per hour to 65 miles per hour. He figures that he will average about 60 miles per hour on this trip. At this average rate, for how long will he be driving? So we're looking for the time. So it gives us the total miles, and the rate that we'll use will be what he thinks he's going to average. So 883, 60. So the distance he's traveling is 883 miles. The rate that he's going to be traveling at was approximately 60, and the time is what's unknown. So you can simply solve this one-step equation by dividing both sides by 60, which is where they're at right here. And 883 divided by 60 is 14.716. This is a decimal out of hundreds, well, it's a decimal, and we're looking for time, hours and minutes. So here's how you figure out hours and minutes. This whole number is going to be the whole number of hours. So we know it's going to be 14 hours. But this is not the minutes. It's not 71 minutes or 0.716 minutes. This is a decimal, and decimals are on a different conversion factor than time. So to convert this, the 0.716 to minutes, because it's not quite a whole hour, we already got the whole hours, that's 14. You simply multiply this times 60 because there's 60 minutes in an hour. And 0.716 times 60 is 42.96. If I rounded that up, I'd get 43. So it will take him about 14 hours and 43 minutes. Okay, so you're going to have to know how to convert those decimals into minutes. You just multiply it times 60. All right. Kate left Albany, New York, traveled to Montreal, Quebec. The distance from Albany to the Canadian border is 176 miles. Then the distance from the Canadian border to Montreal is approximately 65 kilometers. If the entire trip took her about 3 3/4 hours, that's going to be our time. What was her average speed? So we're looking for the rate. But the first issue we have is, so she traveled from Albany to the border and then from the border to Montreal. And in the United States, we use miles more than kilometers, so it's 176 miles. But other countries, such as Canada, use kilometers instead of miles. So to find that total distance that she traveled, you need to convert either the miles to kilometers or the kilometers to miles. Because we live in the United States, I'm going to convert the kilometers to miles. And there's a conversion factor. To change the 65 kilometers to miles, multiply by the conversion factor of this, 0.621371. You're going to want to take note of that. That's to convert kilometers to miles. So you take the kilometers and you multiply by that number, and you're going to get this right here. So this is how many miles from the border to Montreal. And that was after traveling already 176 miles. So the total distance would be those two numbers added up. They rounded that to 40.4. So 216.4 miles. That's the distance. We know the time. We're looking for the rate. So we're going to use distance equals rate times time, the distance formula again. And I think it's set up here. So distance, I'll come over here, was 216.4 equals the rate, which is unknown, and the time was 3.34, but we can't use that. So what's 3/4 as a decimal? So the 3, that's a whole number, and then this 3/4 would be 0.75. Think of it as 3/4. 3/4 would be 0.75. So 3 3/4 would be 3.75, and then times the rate, which is what we're looking for. So if you just divide those, which is where they're at, divide both sides by 3.75, which is what they're doing right here, then you're going to get 57.7. So if you're looking for the nearest mile per hour, it would be, that would round up to 58. So Kate traveled at about 58 miles per hour. Okay. Different example. One has a hybrid car. A hybrid car uses part gas and part electricity. A hybrid car averages 40 miles per gallon. His car has a 12-gallon tank. How far can he travel on one full tank of gas? Well, if he gets 40 miles per gallon for 1 gallon and it holds 12 gallons, you just simply multiply those together, 480. Okay. So when he's traveling at an average rate of 40 miles per gallon, 1 tank of gas will take him 480 miles. That's a pretty easy one. Let's see. We got one more here. One more example. When Barbara used her car for business, she must keep accurate records so that she will be reimbursed for her car expenses. This is a common scenario when you use your own vehicle for company business. A lot of times the company will pay you for your mileage. So it's very important to you to keep track of how many miles you drive while you're at work or while you're using your car for business expenses, because you'll get paid for that. When she started her trip, the odometer, that's how many miles are on the car, was 23,787.8. When she ended up the trip, it read 24,108.6. Barbara's car gets 32 miles per gallon. Her tank was full at the beginning of the trip. When she filled the tank, it cost her $40.10. What price did she pay per gallon of gas on this fill up? So she drove it for this many miles. She had a full tank, and then when she went to fill it back up again, it cost her that much. So let's first figure out how far she drove. So this was the ending mileage, that's the beginning mileage. So she drove, if you subtract those, she drove 320.8 miles. Since she gets 32 miles per gallon, you can figure out how many gallons of gas she used. The distance is equal to the miles that she drove times the gallons, which is what we don't know. Well, the distance was 320.8, and the miles per gallon was 32. So here would be your equation. Divide both sides by 32, and it looks like she used 10.025 gallons on that trip. Okay. If her total gas bill was $40.10, that's when she filled up after she drove for the day, divide this total number by the number of gallons used to get the price per gallon. So this is how we're going to figure out. So this is her gas bill, how much it cost to fill her up, divided by how many gallons she used. And if you divide those, you get 4. So she paid $4 per gallon. And now gas is about $2.20 per gallon, maybe $2.30 per gallon. But here it was $4 per gallon. And that's it. Assignment 41.